Good afternoon, everyone. Welcome to the UTHM IDP EDP talk series on product thinking and entrepreneurship for electrical and electronic engineers. So, today's session is on lean startup methodology and business model canvas. So, before going into the session, let me give you a brief introduction about myself for people who are new to today's session. So myself, Dr. Arjun, I completed my master's in integrated circuit design from Technical University of Munich, and then did a PhD in electrical and electronic engineering from Nanyang Technological University, Singapore, which was a industry-sponsored PhD sponsored by NXP Semiconductors. So during my PhD and master's, I was working on various low-power integrated circuits for medical implant applications and energy harvesting applications. So after my PhD, I got an opportunity to start up my own venture. I got a pre-seed investment from some of the world's leading startup accelerators, and I started up Sepsitron, and I became its co-founder and CTO. It was a medical diagnostics startup, and currently I am working as a product manager at iCana, which is part of Foxconn. So on the whole, I have around 9 years of more than 9 years of academic and industrial R&D experience, in which 3 years of experience comes from my own startup and entrepreneurship. So this is my third session, by the way. So people who are coming new to this session, maybe you could also get the video of my past two sessions and have a look into it. So what have we learned so far? So this entire lecture series, I am structuring this entire lecture series that I am having as product thinking for electrical and electronic engineers. So the main agenda of this lecture series that I am giving you is to kind of inculcate, kind of develop that product thinking mindset into you, so that once you graduate, it will be easier for you to develop new products, develop innovative products, either if you want to start up a company or either if you work in a multinational corporation. So during my very first session, I gave a fascinating overview into electronics and integrated circuits. So the main aim of that very first session is to make you understand the big picture of electronics and integrated circuits. So any product that you see, any electronic product that you see, contains so many different things that are coming together in order to become that product, and that product basically goes to the hands of consumers like us, and it's the consumers that kind of like always expect new things, innovative things, innovative products. So companies come up with innovations every year, and they come up with a lot of new products. So for building any electronic product, there are like a lot of things that you need to understand, a lot of things that you need to do, and that's what I covered in the very first session, fascinating journey into electronics and integrated circuits. Then during the second session, which was last week, I covered rapid prototyping techniques. So once you have some ideas, basically it is always good to experiment and prototype few different versions of your idea before you start to jump into building a real product, because it will help you to save a lot of time, effort, money, energy. Because if you are starting up your own company, or even if you go into a bigger company to work, there are always very limited amount of resources that you could use. So you can't kind of you utilize all of the money, time, manpower, resources to build an idea before even validating it. So that's where you need to always try to do some small prototypes of your idea and validate it with your potential customer, and kind of do a lot of experiments, do a lot of validations, and then finally you move to the product development process, where you start to mass produce and kind of like commercialize it. So there are many different techniques to prototype your ideas. If you have a software idea, there are many different techniques. If you have a hardware idea, there are many different techniques. that's what we saw all of those things in the last session. So for people coming just today to this lecture series, probably you need to watch my previous two sessions to help you understand more about electronic product development, more about prototyping, uh, and kind of like giving life to your ideas. So that's what we have seen in the last two sessions. So today's session is going to be very, very interesting, because if you want to start up your own venture, or even if you work in a bigger company, if they want to start up a corporate venture, or if they want to uh, uh, come up with a new product, uh, so these companies and probably you need to do some frameworks basically. So you can't just like that jump into a new product development. So basically there are like certain techniques to help you to kind of minimize the risk of failure. So that's what we are going to see today. So we are going to see about lean startup method and business model canvas. So before even getting into the session, I want you to first I want you to like kind of prick your brain in with this question. So what is a startup basically? What is a startup? Um, so you would have heard this term many number of times. Probably maybe your friends are starting up a company, or maybe your seniors are starting up a company, or maybe you went into LinkedIn and you saw many people becoming entrepreneurs, many people starting up their own company. So probably some of you may also be inspired with starting up your own company. So what is a startup basically? So startup basically it is a temporary organization designed to search for a repeatable and scalable business model. So even though it looks like a very bookish kind of a definition, I'm going to now kind of like split some important keywords in this definition and explain them further so that you can really understand what a startup is. So basically, startup is a temporary organization designed to search for a repeatable and scalable business model. So what is repeatable, scalable, and what is a business model? So the very first thing that you need to understand when you are either building a startup, or whether you are working in a bigger company that wants to develop a new product and commercialize it, the very first thing that you need to understand is a business model. So what is a business model? So basically it is very simple. A business model is how the company creates value for itself while delivering products and services for customers. So so let's take this phone for example, this Samsung smartphone for example. So this Samsung smartphone or any other electronic product that you have, basically what is the business model of this smartphone? It's very simple. Basically, Samsung manufactures this smartphone and they sell it to you at a certain cost. So probably like $1,000. So the cost of manufacturing this one mobile phone maybe will be around like only $500, or maybe even lesser than that, like 400, $300. But Samsung is selling this smartphone to you for around $1,000. So in this process, Samsung spends $300 or like 400 or $500, whatever it is, to manufacture this mobile phone, and they are selling it to you for $1,000. So imagine if the cost of manufacturing is $500, then Samsung is making a profit of $500 by selling this mobile phone to you. So this is how Samsung creates value for itself. So imagine there are millions of consumers like you, millions of customers like you. So if Samsung is able to get a profit of $500 for one mobile phone, and if Samsung is able to sell 1 million mobile phones this year, then basically their profit is $500 million. So this is how the company creates value for itself while delivering products and services for customers. Of course, the products need to be good enough, and you should have that desire to get their products. If the products are not performing well, if the products are like not up to the mark, not up to the standards of existing competitors, then of course you are not going to buy this mobile phone, and the company is going to lose a lot of money and they are going to get into losses. So this is what basically a business model is. It is very simple. Like it's how the company creates value for itself while delivering products and services for consumers. So in this case, it is very simple. They just manufacture the phone, they sell it, and they create value. But there are like many other companies which will have little bit of a complicated business model, which is not so straightforward like this. So for example, if you take Google, Facebook, such companies, Twitter, such companies. So basically, they have like lot of business models for their company. It's not like they just sell a product to you. So basically, you use Facebook, Twitter, uh, LinkedIn, all these platforms for free. You don't pay any money to Facebook for using their platform. So basically, then how they are even making money to create this platform and maintaining this platform and developing this platform. So this is why they basically advertise a lot of stuff to you, and then make money from the advertisers. So basically you are giving Facebook, Google, LinkedIn a lot of your own personal data, like a lot of your search history, a lot of your preferences and interests, and based on your interests and preferences, they kind of like target you with specific ads, advertisements that are of interest to you. So imagine if you are searching for a smartphone in Google, and the very moment you go to Facebook, you can immediately see a Samsung smartphone advertisement there. So if you just buy that phone from that link, basically uh, it means it is you are giving you are basically like uh, you are being converted as a customer by this advertisement. So Facebook gets share of money from Samsung for helping Samsung to sell their product to you. So this is how basically like many e-commerce, many digital platforms work. So the business models are like little bit different for different companies, but every business model is there to basically create value for the company while delivering some sort of product or service to you. And what is repeatable and scalable? So whatever business model that the company comes up with, it needs to be repeatable and scalable, right? So it needs to work today, tomorrow, day after tomorrow, the next year, the after 5 years also. If not, then it is not a repeatable business model. If it is not a repeatable business model, then the company is not able to have a sustained growth in the coming years. So so the Samsung's, coming back to the Samsung example. So basically, Samsung has been selling mobile phones maybe for the past 10 years, and they are going to sell mobile phones for the coming like uh, many number of years. So their business model is little bit simple. They manufacture the electronic device and they sell it to you. So it is very repeatable, and it is also scalable. Scalable in the sense, so basically, if they spend $1 to make a product, and if they are able to sell it at $5 or $10, then basically they are getting like 5 times as profit, like or like 10 times as profit. So it also needs to be scalable, and it needs to be growing basically. So this is what a business model is like. It should be repeatable and scalable. Samsung, if they are able to sell you a mobile phone today, then probably like the next year also they should be able to sell a mobile phone, at least if not for to you, at least to customers like you. So coming back to startup, so we saw that startup is a basically an organization designed to search for a repeatable and scalable business model. So we saw what a business model is. We saw what is repeatable. We saw what is scalable. So now coming back to the word search. So every startup is basically experimenting a lot of things. It is always in the search mode. Basically, it's not because see, Samsung is here for probably like 10-15 years. So, but if you start a company just today, you are just getting started. So you still don't know what to do. You still have a lot of assumptions to validate. You still need to explore a lot of different things to find out what business model will be suitable for your company, what business model will be repeatable and scalable for your company, which business model will give you better value for your company. So this is why you always need to uh, kind of like take take a telescope, and like you always need to like kind of like search 360-degree around you to find a good business model that should be repeatable and scalable for your startup. Because when you're starting up a company, basically you will definitely have some idea in your mind. So basically you will start with certain business model, you will continue with that business model, but after some time you will realize that that business model may not give you some good returns. That business model is like kind of not very scalable or like not very repeatable. So that's when like you discard that business model and you go to some other business model. So coming back to the Samsung example now. So probably if Samsung is manufacturing their mobile phones on their own, that is one kind of a business model where they set up the factory their own, they manufacture it and they sell it. But probably it is like two things that Samsung needs to do. Now they also need to figure out how to efficiently and cost effectively and manufacture this mobile phone, and they should also find out a way to kind of like sell this mobile phone. So this is like two different things basically. So this is why like bigger companies like usually don't engage in like multiple things at the same time. So this is why mostly like if you see bigger companies like Samsung and Apple, they basically outsource their manufacturing to some other company which is more efficient, which is like more scalable, more cost effective, and they just outsource their manufacturing. So they once they outsource their manufacturing, they will just concentrate on like more marketing, branding, and commercializing and like selling their mobile phone. So this is how like you also need to search for like different business models when you start up your own company. Of course, even if you go to a bigger company to work, and if the company is looking to start a new product development, and if the company is looking to introduce a new product into the market, you of course need to understand what sort of business model the company is kind of like looking for, what kind of business model the company is trying to engage with, and probably you will better understand that. So don't think that this very session is only for people who want to start up a company. It is also for people who wants to get into a bigger company and kind of like work on their products. So yeah, so we saw what a startup is. Basically, it is organization uh, designed to search for a repeatable and scalable business model. But it is also an organization that kinds of operates under extreme uncertainty. So basically, startup is kind of a human institution. Basically, a startup has very limited number of manpower. Basically, you and your friends, like maybe like can form team and you can start up a company. So if you just incorporate a company, you will have a company where the manpower of the company is only like a couple of few people, like probably like you, your friends, like probably two people or three people or like four to five people. So it is like a very close knit network. If you compare this with Google, where they have like thousands and thousands of employees spread across like different countries, your team is like very close knit. You basically know each and everyone more better than someone working in a bigger company. So it is basically a human institution designed to create a new product or service under conditions of extreme uncertainty. Because as I told before, when you are always in the search mindset, you always need to be in the search mindset. You always need to experiment a lot of things, because you are just starting. So you still don't know what to do. You still don't know where to go. So the path in front of you is like not very clear. So this is why you need to like operate under a lot of uncertainties. But that's what also makes you a better person. So that's what also make you make you understand life better, makes you understand new product development better, makes you understand your customers better, and kinds of like gives you those valuable skill sets that probably you will not even get if you work in a bigger company. Because if you go to work for a bigger company, you will be doing some very small thing, like basically, so you will not even like have that understanding of how of like how what you are doing kinds of gets into that end product, or like kinds of like gets into that bigger picture. But if you are creating your own startup, if you even work in a startup company, you will have a clear understanding of why you are doing something, like uh, where it is going to fit, like where what you are working on is going to fit in the end product. So you're going to develop all of these understandings. You're going to develop a lot of understanding on your customers requirements, and many things like. So 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 this is what basically a startup is like. Hope I gave you a very good explanation of what a startup is, and things like that. So now let's see how what sort of framework we can use to build a startup, or what sort of framework we can use to build a new product while minimizing the risk of failure, while navigating through this extreme uncertainties, which the framework which helps us to navigate better under this extreme uncertainties. So that is what we call it as lean startup method. So lean startup method was introduced by Eric Ries, the person who is shown in this photo. He has also written a book called Lean Startup. So basically, if you are further interested to know more about this lean startup method and know more about startups and entrepreneurship, you can like get this lean startup book, and you can read it. It's kind of like a bible for all the startup and entrepreneurs. So what is a lean startup method? So basically it is a method to systematically address uncertainty through rapid iteration and validated learning. So basically, as I told before, you don't know the path in front of you, so there is going to be a lot of uncertainties. So there needs to be some framework which will help you to navigate around these uncertainties, um, and help you to learn things faster and better. So that is what lean startup method is going to do. So lean startup method is going to help you to systematically address uncertainty through iterating lot of things, through like experimenting lot of things, and also learning from all of your iterations and learning from all of your experiments. So that is what a lean startup method is. So why startup is different from a large company? So you can ask me a question that like, why can't we consider a startup as a smaller version or a miniature version of a larger company? Because we can't consider startup as a kind of a smaller version of a large company. Because see larger companies are there. Larger companies, like, they started here and now they are here, something like this. So maybe they started in like 1990s and now we are in like 2022. So it's like more than 30 years. So in this 30 years, all these larger companies have navigated all of these uncertainties. So they know now what they are doing. So they have like navigated all of those uncertainties. They have like lot of new existing products in the market, and they now know what to do in order to even become even a big larger company. So these companies always focus on execution, because they when they started, they would have definitely they would have also focused on searching for a repeatable and scalable business model. But once they have found out, it's all kind of like executing things efficiently, fastly, uh, and things like that. So once you start to execute things, basically like it's like very quick. So basically it's like you just like multiply. So imagine if like you are getting like 500 million profit, then what you can do to like get 1,000 million profit? Can you just like increase $2 in your product? So very simple, right? So you just like increase $2 in your product, then you reach like 1,000 million. but of course, like the amount you increase uh, should not kind of like turn off your customers. It should be like kind of a marginal increase where the customer is not even like realizing that it is a bigger amount that he's paying now. So they're always like focused on execution. So they're focused on how to like increase their revenue, how to increase their profits, how to capture more markets and things like that. But startups focus on both search and execution. So startup, they need to do both the things hand in hand. It's not like you just like search but you don't execute. It's not like you execute but you don't search. So you need to do both of these things hand to hand. So you need to also search for a repeatable and scalable business model. And once you found out something, you need to do some experiments, you need to validate it, and you need to start executing it. And once you execute it, if you find some problems with it, then you need to understand from what went wrong, and again you need to search for some other new business model, and then you need to execute it. So you need to like go into this iteration like few number of times. So it's like always like this, and then you stabilize. So if you work on electronics, you know, like every system will take some time to like stabilize, right? So if you work on any electronic system, like the moment you turn the electronic system on, basically it like suddenly jumps and like it kinds of like oscillates a little bit, and then like it stabilizes. So that's how like startup is also is. So basically you just like start, and like there are like lot of oscillations there, and which all of these oscillations are necessary in order to help you to like now stabilize and focus clearly on execution, and kind of like become a bigger company. So now let's have a look into what lean startup method is. But before having a look into lean startup method, there are like few principles of lean startup. So what are those few principles? They are like very simple, very simple principles, because see, like uh, I want you to understand. I want you to understand that you are all entrepreneurs. Basically, you all have that skill sets of becoming an entrepreneur. It's not like when I say that uh, when I say that like when I say about like startup entrepreneurship, it's not like, oh, please don't think that you need like a qualification like a PhD to start up a company. You need like 20-30 years of experience for you to start up a company or for you to become an entrepreneur. So it's not. So that's what I want to like kind of like demystify all of those myths that you may have about startups and entrepreneurship. So the very first principle of lean startup is entrepreneurs are everywhere. Like you are all entrepreneurs. I am an entrepreneur. Like you are all entrepreneurs. Your parents are entrepreneurs. So entrepreneurs are everywhere. Like you all have that skill sets to become an entrepreneur. So don't think that like you need to do a PhD to become an entrepreneur, or you need to like do a master's to become an entrepreneur, or you need to like work in the industry for 20 or 30 years to become an entrepreneur. Of course all of these are going to help you in becoming a better entrepreneur, but it doesn't mean that without these things you can't become an entrepreneur. So entrepreneurs are everywhere. You are all entrepreneurs. You all have that skill set to become an entrepreneur. The next important principle is it's all about managing things. So as I told before, when you start up a company or when you become an entrepreneur, you are going to see lot of things coming into you. So basically, you ask, because see, as I told before, the resources are very limited. So you need to like manage a lot of different things, and sometimes it is going to be so chaotic. Like it's not like you can like concentrate on a certain thing for for like a larger amount of time. So you can't really do that. So probably when you get into a company, basically you'll do some smaller thing of this entire bigger product, and you will just do it for like probably like even for 3 or 5 years before you get promoted to the next level. But in a startup world, if you are an entrepreneur, you are going to do many different things, like many different things. You are going to think about how to develop the product. You are going to really work on, creating the product. You are going to do all the technical work. You are going to now think about how to market this product. So you are going to do marketing. You are going to think about how to sell this product. So you are going to do selling. You are going to think about how to do some digital marketing. So you are going to create your own website. You are going to create your own mobile application. Then you are going to think about how to strategically kind of like position your product. So you are going to think about strategy. So many different things you are going to think about, and this is where when you become an entrepreneur, it is also going to give you lot of life's most important skill sets that you can't get it from just from like theoretical learning. So it's all like so much 100% practical. So you are going to like jump into the ocean, and you are going to like navigate and find out like how to swim and things like that. So that's what like entrepreneurship is. So you are going to learn a lot of things, and of course like while you are learning all of these things, you also need to like manage many different things. And then you always are in that experimental mindset. So that is very important. So when I say that you need to be in an experimental mindset, it also means that you need to be resilient to failures, because see, experiments are not meant to work in the very first time. If you take a breadboard, and if you connect lot of wires, and if you connect build your circuit, it's not going to work in the first time. Maybe you will do some mistake, you will like miss out some connection here and there. Like it happens. Like even if you get a PhD, you can make some errors. You can uh, it's not like if you do a PhD, everything works well in the first time itself. It's not like that. So you always need to have that experimental mindset, and you always need to be resilient to failures. So just don't get fumbled with failures. So don't think bad about failures. Like just think about how you can learn from failures, what you can learn from your failures, and start to like use those learnings into the next version of whatever you are doing. So startup means experiment. Startup is equal to experiments. So you need to like treat whatever you are doing as an experiment. So do it, learn from it, or like whatever you are doing needs to have certain objectives. You need to have certain aim. It's not like you do an experiment without any aim and objective, right? So whatever you are doing, you need to have that objective in your mind. You do something, you find out if that objective is good enough or not, or if that objective is kind of like satisfied. If it is satisfied, well and good. If not, then learn from what went wrong, and then create another new experiment, and kind of like proceed with it. So you need to be in that learning mindset. So these are the most important principles that you need to understand when you are building up your own company, or even if you work in a company, even if you work in a startup company, if you work in a bigger company in today's volatile world. So we call it as VUCA, so which is like volatile, uncertain, complex, ambiguous. So today's world is like VUCA, volatile, uncertain, complex, and ambiguous. So it is like VUCA means like uncertainty. So there are going to be a lot of uncertainties in today's world. So you need to like develop all of these skill sets, and kind of like treat everything as an experiment, and learn from it, and like be always constantly curious to design your own experiments and learn from them. So entrepreneurs are everywhere. Entrepreneurship is management, and validated learning. Startup is experiments. So these three are the most important principles of lean startup. Now let's see what the lean startup method itself. It is very, very simple. Like it is just having three steps: build, measure, learn. Build, measure, learn. So just three steps: build, measure, learn. So as I told before, every startup exists, or even every bigger company exists, because they had some idea, and they kind of like converted that idea into a product or service, and they sell that product to customers. And in this process, they measure how the customers are responding to your to that product or service, and they learn whether to continue building the same product, or whether to discard that and come up with a new idea, or come up with a new product, and sell it. So this is what we call it as like pivot or persevere. So the fundamental activity of a startup is to turn ideas into products, measure how customers respond, and then learn whether to pivot or persevere. So if the product is good, then you persevere. Basically, if the product is good and if the customers are giving you very good feedback about your idea, very good feedback about your product, then you persevere. Persevere means basically then you start building that product and you start building more of that product and you sell it. But if the customers are not very happy with your product, or if the feedback is not so good, then basically you pivot. So pivot means basically you now change your track. So instead of like doing this product with this idea, then maybe like you change track, like maybe come up with a new idea, then come up with a new product and release it, give it to your customer and measure how the customers are responding. If they are giving you good feedback, then persevere. If not, again pivot, again go to another idea, another product, and give it again to your customer, measure what their feedback is. If it is good, persevere. If not, pivot. So it's like a loop. Basically, it's an infinite loop. It's not going to end. So this is why I told you that you need to develop that experimental mindset. So it's a loop. It's not going to end. It's always in that loop. So it's not like Samsung came up with a smartphone and they are like they don't do any R&D and innovation. Like it's not like that, right? Every year they are coming up with a new product, new model of cell phone. Back before 10 years, when I was like doing my school education, that's when like smartphones even came into the market very first. Before that, like Nokia was the pioneer in mobile phones. They came up with like mobile phones, and these mobile phones were kind of like bulky. Sometimes like the antenna used to like protrude out of the mobile phone, and these mobile phones like were perfectly fine. Like it was like a very big hit in the market. Like many people started to buy these mobile phones, and like everyone started to use these mobile phones. But then suddenly like few companies came up with smartphones, where they came up with like touch screen, color mobile phones. Because before that it was like all black and white, and then touch screens, color mobile phones. So it all came, and then like people started to adopt to that, and that's where like Nokia didn't didn't do that experiment. Nokia was like stuck. Nokia was stagnant. They were just kind of like introducing the same old products into the market, and that's when like companies like Samsung, Apple like came up with like new products, and they kind of like captured the market. So Nokia now like kind of like went down, and I don't think like even like anyone is like using a Nokia smartphone these days. But back in the olden days, it was all like Nokia and Ericsson. But now I don't think anyone is using Nokia and Ericsson smartphones. So this is why you need to be in this loop. You need to like always do something better. So you need to be in this loop. You develop a product, give it to your customer, measure the feedback, persevere. Like you need to always measure. Like at some point, like the customer is not going to be happy with your product. Maybe because like competitors introduced new products that are better and things like that. So then that's when you need to pivot and you come up with a new product and again give it to your customer and like make them happy and things like that. So build, measure, learn. Always like build the product, measure the feedback and learn from that feedback and decide whether to persevere or pivot. So how to till when you need to pivot. So basically for every product that you do, you need to pivot until you achieve product market fit. So product market fit means basically the product is now kind of like fitting perfectly with your customers requirements, or kind of like aligning well with your customers expectation and requirements. So up to this point you need to pivot. Up to this point you need to pivot. So if you come with like version A, so that's why if you see any software applications, they will have like alpha version, beta version, something like that, version 1.1, version 1.2, version 1.3. So it's all like different pivots. So they came up with like version 1 and they gave it to the customer, and based on the feedback, they learn something from that, and they now create version 1.1, and then they create version 1.2, 1.3, 1.4. So it's all like that. So even Android, if you take, like, you can have like many different versions of Android. Apple iPhone, you can see there are like many different versions of iPhone. So you will pivot till you achieve product market fit. But once you achieve product market fit, it does not mean that you can now last indefinitely with this product. It does not mean you can now last infinitely with this product, because see, like, that's where, like, we have a concept called product life cycle. So every product has kinds of like reaches a peak, and then like kinds of like stabilizes there, and kinds of like now slowly drops. So this is where, like, when it rises to the peak, this is where you are this experimental mindset. You do lot of experiments, pivot, and finally you achieve that product market fit, with which you can now stabilize your sales. Lot of people are interested, lot of people are buying. But then after a certain point, like probably after like 6 months or like 7 months, or after a year, basically new products are now going to be introduced in the market. Competitors are coming with new products, and customers are now not very happy with your product, and your product starts to decline. So this is what, like, always happens in all of the products. So if you see like Samsung, so basically Samsung 10, in any mobile phone, like Apple for iPhone 14, iPhone like 13. So it basically it is just for like 1 year. Like after 1 year, like people lose interest on it. Of course, like few people still buy it, because like after 1 year, like these products become cheaper than they used to be before 1 year. So few people still buy it. But can you now um, think whether is anyone buying the old Nokia mobile phone? No, right? Like those product life cycle has completed. Like it has gone to a peak at probably like uh, in the early 2000s, and then like it kind of like declined. So this is why you always need to be in that experimental mindset. So as I told before, once you pivot and like once you like achieve product market fit, you also need to understand a concept called as minimum viable product. So basically, when you are like prototyping, you always need to get to the point of coming up with a minimum viable product that the customer can use and test. So when I told you that, like, you need to build, you need to measure, and you need to learn, it is not like you build some very minute feature of the product and you just release it to your customer. It's not like that. You need to build something that is viable for the customer to use it and test it and give you their feedback. So there is a degree of how much to build, right? So it's not like, if you imagine, like, if you take a mobile phone, you just build only the outer casing of the mobile phone. It's not like that. If you just build the outer casing of the mobile phone and give it to your customer, the customer is not even going to care about it. They are not even going to like give you any feedback, because what are they going to do with this? Just the outer casing. They need some features to test it and uh, feel how your product is, and like what sort of benefit your product is offering them, right? So this is why you need to come up with some sort of like a minimum a viable version that the customer is interested to like get it from you, use it and test it and give you their feedback. So that, please pay attention to the degree of like how much you build. And please also pay attention here not to overbuild things. So you need to find that kind of like sweet spot. If you start to overbuild things, then you are going to utilize a lot of resources, manpower, time, energy, money, and if the customer is not interested, then you are going to waste all of these resources. So this is why you need to like only build the minimum versions. So basically this is what they call it as like alpha version, something like that. So they just have the minimum viable versions that the customer need to use in order to test and give you their feedback. And once you get their feedback, then you probably go into like beta version and things like that. So that's what like minimum viable product is. So how to build a minimum viable product? As I told before, like if for example, if you are building some product that helps the customer to travel from point one to point four. So imagine the problem that you have chosen is to help your customer to travel from point one to point four. Then it's not like you just build a tire and give it to your customer. It is not going to help your customer to travel from point one to point four. Your customer is not going to like catch the tire and like roll around and go from point one to point four, right? So you need to understand that. So whatever version that you are doing, it needs to uh, solve that problem. It needs to give that feature for the customer to really do that work. So if that's why like so if you build a skateboard, it will still help your customer to travel from point one to point four or point five. But of course like there are like lot of disadvantages here, but of course, but at least it is helping them to do the task, right? So it's not like just a tire with which the customer does not even know what to do, right? So the customer now needs to wait and think about how the tire is going to become a product that they can use to travel from one point to another point. So you should not make your customer to like think like this. So basically you should make your customer to get into the action and then use your product and give you feedback, and sometimes it will also help you to get some revenue, because see, as I told before, startup are always going into a kind of like navigating uncertainties. This is why you shouldn't like utilize all of the resources you have. So you need to build just the minimum viable version of helping your customer to achieve whatever you had think of you had in mind as a problem of the customer, and whatever you have validated from the customer that it is the problem they are facing. So just build that minimum version and then help them to do it. So once they travel in the skateboard, then probably they are going to give you some feedback. Okay, I kind of like it's very unbalanced. Maybe I need a handbar to hold and like ride. So then you come up with the second version. Then probably the customer is going to say that, oh, I'm getting leg pain if I just stand and like travel, so I need to sit and ride. So then you come up with a cycle. Then maybe the customer is going to say, I want to go faster. Then you come up with a bike, and probably the customer is going to say, I want to now travel along with all of my family members. So then now come up with a car. So the approach between this the first uh, set of images and the approach between this the second set of images is basically, in every point you have something to sell. Basically in every point you have something to give to your customer and help them to use your product, give you feedback, and at the same time you can also sell and make some money with which you can like further improve your company or your product. But if you just manufacture this tire and give it to your customer, then the customer is not even going to buy it. So if the customer is not even going to buy it, then here you don't have any validation. You are not validating anything here basically. So of course like you are validating that the tire is not the thing that the customer is looking for, but it shouldn't be like that, because you are now losing money and validating things. So you need to like validate things while still making some money, so and getting feedback. So there is also one more concept called as design thinking, which is very similar to the lean startup method. So basically, every company you go, every startup you work for, or every bigger company that you work for, always do design thinking before they start any new product development, because design thinking helps them to systematically kind of like eliminate lot of uncertainties. So basically design thinking and lean startup are kind of like very similar, but a key difference between design thinking and lean startup is like design thinking uh, can be done for non-business problems also. So even if someone is having some personal problems, they can use this design thinking method to find out why they are facing this problem, and they can like solve it. But lean startup is basically more towards like business oriented. It's like more towards like commercializing your idea. So that's why like every startup or bigger company, they will kind of like combine both of this framework, and they will use it. So they will use design thinking to kind of like find out what sort of problems their customers are facing and validating it, and then they will use the lean startup method of like build, measure, and learn to like quickly come up with prototypes and test it and learn, get feedback and learn, and kind of like now start mass manufacturing the new product. So design thinking is very simple. Basically, it's a 5-step process. Basically, we start with empathize, then we define, then we ideate, then we prototype and test. So empathize, define, ideate, prototype, and test. So empathize is the stage where you clearly understand what sort of problems your customers are facing. Basically, you will empathize mean it's not like just interviewing your customer. It is basically you step into the shoes of your customer and kind of like really experience what sort of problems your customers are facing, and you kind of like get all those like first hand information about the problems, because if you experience all of those problems, it is going to give you a lot of insights than just interviewing a customer. So that is what empathize is. And once you empathize, you will collect lot of many different problems, but of course, as always, like you can't like work on all of those problems to come up with solutions. So you need to like kind of like define which is the most important problem that your customer is facing. So that's what you will do in define. And once you define, then you will ideate many different solutions. So you will, this is kind of like it's like kind of a very much like a group activity. So you ideate with a lot of your team members. Lot of your team members will give you a lot of different ideas, and you will kind of like rank your ideas based on like the feasibility and based on like the resources you have. And then you will kind of like prototype. So this is where like my previous session on rapid prototyping techniques help you to like come up quickly with lot of software prototypes and hardware prototypes. So I covered like lot of different techniques in my previous session. So if anyone didn't attend that previous session, please get the video and watch it. So in the rapid prototyping session, I gave you a lot of different ideas which you could like prototype and come up with a lot of prototypes, and you test it with your potential customer and get feedback, and you be in this loop till till you achieve that fit product market fit. So empathize, define, ideate, prototype, test. Lean startup is build, measure, learn. So this build, measure, learn is like very similar to the last two steps of like design thinking, prototyping, and testing. So these two are kind of combined, and every bigger company uses this. If you go to work in a bigger company, the top management always will do design thinking and lean startup methodologies to validate all of their assumptions. If you go to a startup company, they will do it even more than a bigger company, because as I told you before, like bigger companies are now bigger companies are focus more on the execution than the search phase. So startup companies doing this is like very 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 critical. Otherwise, like they are going to fail and like lose all of their money. So once we have built the MVP, the minimum viable product, then what next? It does not stop there. Like, see, you have built, measured, learned, and you have like now iterated this many number of times, and you have come to the point where you feel that you have achieved product market fit, and you can't now stop it here, right? Because you haven't even thought about how to commercialize this. You haven't even thought about how to start selling this. So it is just a product that is now with you. So what to do with this? Like you can't like you can't like immediately go out and like start to sell it, right? Because see, when you are developing a product, you need to think about lot of many different things: how to manufacture it, where to manufacture it, who are all our partners. So there are like many different things that you need to think when you want to start commercializing what you have developed. your product or service. So this is where uh, we need another framework or another like structure to uh, kind of like collect all of our ideas and kind of like validate them systematically and kind of like turn all of those uh, assumptions into real facts. So once you, as I asked you before, so once you have a product that you feel that it is achieved product market fit, then you need to think about like where to manufacture it, how much to sell it, how to market it, how to distribute it, so how the supply chain is going to be. So lot of things. So once you have all of these things, it is going to be very overwhelming for you, because see, as a person you need to now think about many different things and you can't do it very randomly. So we need some structure, and that structure is what the business model canvas provides you basically. So so the business model canvas basically helps you to kind of like structure all of your thoughts and ideas that you have in your mind, and kind of like uh, kind of like empower you, kind of like make you confident in order to start building a company with whatever product or service that you have uh, in your hand that has achieved product market fit. Okay, so business model canvas, it is nothing but it's basically a kind of like a structure, kind of like there are many different elements here. So basically like key partners, key activities, key resources, value proposition, customer relation, customer segments, channels, cost structure, and revenue stream. So basically before having this, you are thinking randomly about like where to manufacture it, like how to market it, and things like that. But once you have kind of like a template like this, it will help you to now kind of like structure all of your thoughts into the different buckets. So this will help you to like think more efficiently, validate things more efficiently, rather than like over complicating things, because you will also like lose lot of ideas if you don't really jot it down. That's what a business model canvas is going to help you. So so when you are jotting down the business model canvas, it is again going to help you uh, clearly think about many different things of how to convert this product into a real business venture. So the very important thing, the first and foremost important thing of any commercial venture is value proposition. So what is value proposition? So if you have any product or service, what value you are providing your customer with that product or service? What is the uniqueness of your product and service? What competitors are providing that what competitors are not providing that you are providing? So what is that unique value that you are providing? So this is what you need to jot down in the value proposition, and this needs to perfectly align with the customer segments that you choose, and their requirements and um, expectations. Why? Because see, the product you come up with cannot be commercialized to uh, all the groups of people. So if I come up with a Samsung smartphone, so if you go to Samsung website, if you go to any electronic company website, like any electronic product company website, you're going to see many different models, right? So if it is a smart TV, you are going to see many different TVs, starting from like 32-inch all the way to like 72-inch. Then in that 32-inch itself, you are going to see many different models. One model is having like Dolby Vision. One model is having like sound, immersive sound. One TV is like 3D. Then similarly, if you see a mobile phone, like one smartphone model is having like the biggest amount of battery backup, battery power. Then one mobile phone is like optimized for gaming. One model is like having very big screen size. One model is like very sleek, even though it is like very small screen size. So there are like many different models. And why the company is building many different models? Because they want to satisfy many different groups of people. My preferences are not going to be your preferences, right? So you will have certain preferences that I will not have. So how to satisfy then you and me? So basically this is where all the companies will do market research to understand their customers better, and you also need to do it. So whatever product you are coming up with, you need to understand which customer segment you are going to target, whether it is like younger people or older people or students or professors or people who are going to work, many different things. So you need to think of all of those things. So all the gaming smartphones, all the gaming laptops that are coming are not really targeted for like older people. They are basically targeted for younger people. So you can see, you can clearly understand that like older people are not going to play any games. So all the high end sleek laptops are targeted towards like business people working, people doing business, because they want to like travel their laptop to lot of meetings. So it needs to be like very very thin, low weight, high performance. So all of these things. So similarly when you come up with a product, you need to now define what sort of gain you are giving to your customer, what sort of pain you are relieving from the customer. So for that, you need to have a customer profile. So this is where you need to really understand what your customer is, who your customer is, and what are their expectations, preferences, what are what are what are all the things they consider as gains to them, what are all the pains they are facing, what are all the jobs they are trying to do in their day-to-day life, or in their work life. So you need to jot down all of these things in a customer profile, and this customer profile will vary because see, when you start to like speak with like 50 different customers, so now you are going to have 50 different profiles. But then you can now group these profiles into in because like many people will have same interests and preferences. So you can now group these profiles. So this is how you group now, basically like younger people going to work, younger people who are just students. So once you have this segregation done, then what what value your product is giving and how it is kind of like aligning with your customer segment. So if the value you are giving is not aligning with certain groups of people, you don't need to target those people. It's not like your product needs to satisfy all the people in this world. So any product will not satisfy it. Even if you take a Apple iPhone, like it will not satisfy like all people's, right? So 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 your value proposition needs to like satisfy uh, y- exactly who the customer segment that you have chosen. So of course, yeah, this is what I also told you as product market fit. So so if you can summarize what value you are providing to your customer in a very simple statement, like we help X do Y by doing Z. If you can summarize it in a very simple statement like this, in a single line statement like this, then it means you have clearly understood your customer's requirements, and whatever value you are providing kinds of like perfectly aligns with your customer's requirements, and you have achieved product market fit. So write down all of the value you are providing, which customer you are targeting in this business model canvas in these two buckets. And then how are you going to establish relationships with them? How are you going to deliver your product to your customer? What sort of channels you are going to use, whether you are going to use any e-commerce platforms, or whether you are going to set up a physical store and you are going to sell it, and how are you going to get your customers, how are you going to retain all of those customers, how are you going to grow your customers. So what sort of relationship you are going to engage. So you need to consider all of these things. Without considering these things, then you really can't uh, create a successful startup, or you really can't create a successful company. It's not like you just have the product and everyone will be interested to buy it. In today's world, there are like infinite products that everyone is trying to build. So you need to be unique in certain things. So, and you need to like have some good relationship with your customers. So you need to consider all of these things, and the all of these things will impact your cost structure. All of these things will impact your cost structure. If you set up a physical store, then you need to think how much rent you are going to pay for the physical store, where you are going to set up this physical store, whether it is in a mall or whether it is somewhere inside the city or whether it is somewhere outside of the city. You need to think about these things and how much money you are going to pay as rent. How are you going to be in constant touch with your customer, whether you are going to do some digital marketing, and if you are doing some digital marketing, are you going to hire some people to help you do this digital marketing, or whether you are going to have a dedicated customer relationship manager to take care of establishing good relationships with their customers. So all of these things are going to impact your cost structure also. And then key resources, basically, like what are all the resources you need in order to really commercialize your product, in order for your business model to work. So there are like many different resources: human resources, finance resources, intellectual resources, physical resources. So how much manpower you need, how much money you need, how are you going to pay their salaries, uh, whether you need any infrastructure, like you need some equipments to build your product, and whether you need some intellectual properties. So you need to think about all of these things, and then who are all your key partners. So if it is a e-commerce, if you're planning to sell your product through e-commerce platforms, then are you going to partner with Amazon? So you need to think about who are all your key partners, how to have some good strategic alliances, how to have some joint ventures between your suppliers, buyers, and what are all the activities you are going to do. So basically, what your activity is very simple. So basically, your activity um, is kind of like um, executing this business model now. So basically, you have validated all of these things. You have now a product that you feel that has achieved product market fit. So now you need to like execute it. So you need to like start mass producing it, and you need to start selling it. So you need to like think about what are all these activities. So like where are you going to manufacture? If it is a hardware product, where are you going to manufacture it, and how are you going to distribute it? How who are all your key suppliers? Where are you going to get the raw materials? If it is a software product, then of course, like probably like whether you are like partnering with Google, Amazon to get some cloud services, and like how are you going to secure your cloud services, whether you are going to engage with any cyber security agency to secure your cloud services. So you need to like think all of these things, and you need to like jot down all of those things in the business model canvas. And once you have jotted down all of these things, and of course, like all of these things will impact your cost structure and revenue stream. So all the partners, activities, resources, like whatever you are going to engage with, are going to add up to the cost, and all of these cost and expenses are going to like eat up the money you have. And how much revenue you are going to make, what is the revenue model, whether it is a simple revenue model or whether it is a complicated revenue model. So if it is just a hardware product, you manufacture it and sell it. But if it is a software product, then how are you going to get revenue? Whether you are going to get some advertising partners to advertise in your website, or like web app or mobile app. So you need to think about all of these things also. So once you have started to think about all of these things, it will now give you a clarity, basically. Because before this, there were like a lot of random thoughts that you had. You felt that you need to do a lot of things, but you don't know where to start with. But once you started to jot down all of these things, now you clearly know where to start, what to do, what to validate. But it's not like you just write it down. Basically, you need to write it down and validate it. Basically, again, you need to go and validate it. So if you write down that your customer segment is students, then you need to speak with a lot of students, and understand their problems. What are all their jobs? What are all they feel as gains to them? What are all the pains they have? then how your value proposition is kind of like aligning with your customer segments, then how are you going to establish relationships with them, whether you are going to use any physical channel or virtual channel. So you need to validate all of these things. So you need to like do lot of validations. Without validating, then it's not really a plan basically, because as I told you before, a startup means experiment and it means validated learning. It means searching for the right thing. So it does not stop only with writing the things. You write it down and you go and like validate each and everything. Once you start to validate each and everything, the more solid your business plan is, the more solid your path towards commercialization will be, the more solid your profits will be, the more solid your confidence will be in scaling up your business, the more solid your company's growth will be. So you need to like validate all of these things. So now let's have a look at one example of business model canvas, which is of a company that that is very popular, that we are all consumers of. So we probably, like most of us, like use Facebook. Probably if someone of you is not using Facebook, probably you are using Instagram or like WhatsApp. So all of these are part of the Meta's platform now. Back in the olden days, it was not like that. Like WhatsApp was a different company, Instagram was a different company, Facebook was a different company. But then like Facebook kind of like acquired WhatsApp and Instagram, and now they are all part of the same company. So now let's think about the business model canvas of Facebook. So basically, for Facebook, the customer segments are like consumers, like users, like you, me, like everyone. It's pretty general now for Facebook, because like everyone are using Facebook. Like older people are using, like younger people are using, students are using. So it's kind of like bit broad. And of course, there are like other customer segments like advertisers and marketers and developers. And and what is their value proposition? Basically, their value proposition is like very simple. Basically, it is helping all of us to get connected with each other. So global connectivity, sharing our ideas, sharing our thoughts, communicating with each other. Like of course, in today's world, like all the companies have Facebook pages. Even influencers, like people like you and me have Facebook pages, and kind of like uh, uh, share all of our thoughts and ideas. So like kind of like creating our own personal brand, expanding our business, a lot of things like that. And the relationship between us and Facebook is very simple. It's not like we have someone from Facebook coming to us and like asking us to like sign up there into their platform. So it's basically a self-service platform. It is like very straightforward. You just go and like key in your email ID, password, and you sign up, and you just create your own profile and you start to use it. You start to give connection requests to your friends. You start to like whatever pages you are interested in. So it's like very much um, self-service. Of course, there will be some dedicated people uh, for companies basically. So basically for advertisers who want some specialized support, Facebook may have some a dedicated team to help them use their platform. The channels are all like virtual. It's there is nothing called as a physical uh, thing in Facebook, so it's all virtual. And what are all the key activities? Basically, their key activities is to like develop the platform and maintain it, and of course, like maintain it in a secure way, right? Because hacking and cyber security issues are becoming a bigger problem and bigger threat these days. So they need to maintain their platform. They need to secure their platform, and they need to like partner with many different companies, and they also need to acquire a lot of companies, and that's how like they acquired WhatsApp and Instagram. And key partners are basically content creators, all the advertisers, marketers, bigger companies. Key resources, basically talent, uh, good internet connectivity network, like lot of bandwidth in the network platform. So these are all the main important ingredients of the business model canvas. and these all kind of like now influence the cost structure and the revenue streams of the company. So the cost structure, basically Facebook need to spend a lot of money in maintaining their platform. They need to spend a lot of money in protecting all of the data we share it with them. Of course, like we share a lot of data to Facebook, like we share our birth date, we share our full name, we share our family name, we share like who are all our relatives, we share who are all our friends, we share our gender, so we share our photos, we share like many of our lives events. So we share a lot of data to Facebook and Google these days. Back in the olden days, it was not. We don't share anything to like people whom we don't know. But in today's world, like we share a lot of data to like internet companies like Facebook. So they need to like protect all of this data. Like simply a hacker can like hack and they can like access all of this data, and with that, like they can do many different bad things, right? So this is why like Facebook need to maintain all of this data. They need to like secure this data, and in order to secure this data, they need to like hire more manpower to kind of like test their systems to check if they are all like not hackable, things like that. So like a lot of costs are going there, and they need to spend a lot of money in research and development, do customer service, and of course like a little bit of marketing for themselves, and kind of like accurate content also. And much of the revenue for Facebook comes from ad. Like 99% of the revenue comes from advertisements. So so this is why recently, if you see, like all the bigger companies are laying off people. Like they're cutting back spending on advertisements, because globally inflation is uh, kind of becoming a bigger and bigger issue today. People are not willing to spend a lot of money in consumer products because of inflation. So probably if you like kind of like earn $1,000, and previously you you kind of like bought a mobile phone for like $200, but now and you spent like $200 for your housing rent. But in today's world, it's like two times. So you need to like, if your salary is still like $1,000, but your housing expense are now like around $400. So kind of like inflation is like shooting up the cost of everything, and people are now not willing to spend a lot of money in like fancy things, like getting a new mobile phone, getting a new laptop, and things like that. So people are not interested in spending money in all of these things, because the cost of living has is been increasing day by day today. So this is why a lot of companies are kind of like not spending more money in advertising, because they know that like even if they spend a lot of money in advertising their products, people are not willing to buy. So the companies are now cutting down all of their advertisement costs, and this kinds of like cuts down the revenue of all of these companies, and these companies are now thinking of how to improve their profits, and how to improve their cash flows and things like that. So that is why they are laying off a lot of people. So this is why like when you are just focused on getting revenue from just one of the streams, then if there is any problem that affects that stream, then your company has becomes company is now getting into a bigger problem. So that is why like you need to have like multiple revenue streams, and in order to have multiple revenue streams, you need to have multiple business models, and in order to have multiple business models, you need to do a lot of multiple experiments, come up with multiple products and services and things like that. So it's all kind of like very much interconnected. So that's all for today's session. So hope you are all clear about lean startup methodology and business model canvas. So I'm just going to give you a very short recap of what we saw today. So startup is always startup means experiment, uh, navigating around uncertainties, doing a lot of experiments to validate a lot of things, learn from all of these experiments. So in order to do all of these things, we need some method to systematically address all of these uncertainties and kind of like learn from all of our experiments. So that is where you use the lean startup method, where you build, measure, and learn. You build a minimum viable product, and you measure it. You give it to your customer and measure it, get their feedback, and you learn from it. And then we also saw about design thinking, which contains of 5 different steps: empathize, define, ideate, prototype, and test. And the last 2 steps kind of now combined with the build, measure, learn of the lean startup method. And so this methodology is what is used in today's world by all the leading multinational corporations and startup companies. And then we saw about business model canvas to help you convert your product into a real business venture, where you need to start thinking about what is your value proposition, who are all your customer segments, what sort of relationships you are going to establish with them, what is the channel you are going to use to reach to your customer, what is the key activity that you are going to do, who are all your key partners, and what are all the key resources you need, and then what is the cost structure and what is the revenue stream. So once you have jotted down all of these things and validated it, now you are kind of little bit confident to kind of like take the next step of converting your product into a real business venture. So that's a very short recap of today's session. So please let me know if you have any questions. You can always contact me through my email, which is mentioned here, or I have also embedded my LinkedIn profile's QR code here. So if you want, you could also connect with me through LinkedIn and ask me if you have any questions. If not, I will also have the next session probably 2 weeks after today, and we will have a session on startup 101, everything you need to know to build your startup. So that will be my next session. So see you all soon in the next session. So thank you, and see you all soon. Bye.